The Alumni Achievement Awards are basically exactly what they sound. It's an opportunity for us to recognize alumni who have gone above and beyond in their specialties or areas, who are math grads, and are chosen by a committee of 6 people based on nominations received throughout the year, and then recognized in January when we recognize the students at the awards banquet. So we have 4, although 3 are only here yet. One's still flying in, he's probably in the air right now. We have 4 people coming today. You get the opportunity to come to all 4 sessions, 2 in this morning, 2 in the afternoon. You're going to hear a completely wide variety of speakers, of topics, and a wide variety of experience. And this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions. Our first speaker, Patrick, will be talking about startups. He's a recent grad. He's from Guelph. He's local. He's based now in San Francisco. Co-founder of SigOpt, and what's your official title? Co-founder and
VP of Engineering. Yep.
Of SigOpt in San Francisco. So he's going to be talking about startups, and this is a great opportunity if you're thinking, that you may want to start up a company of your own. You have an idea. You may want to take it from concept to reality. You have some fears or doubts. This is a phenomenal opportunity to interact with Patrick and get his input, gain from his experience. Not every startup is 100% successful in their first 90 days. But what are the pitfalls? What did he experience? This is a phenomenal opportunity for you to get an advantage over your fellow students. So without further ado, I want to introduce Patrick Case, co-founder and VP Engineering at SigOpt.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And I do want to say it's truly an honor to be here, both to kind of meet with the students, but also to be recognized by the awards committee. And I want to say thank you to the Alumni Association for hosting this great event and for giving me this opportunity to speak. And while I'm here, I also want to say thank you to all the professors and faculty and staff at the university who made my time here so valuable, because I have no doubt I'd be in a very different place today without all of them. Just to go over my background. So I graduated from Waterloo in 2012. I got BMath, studying computer science and pure math while I was here. Then after I graduated, I went to work at Foursquare in New York City. They make an app for venue recommendations. And then about 3 years ago, I moved to San Francisco, where I became co-founder and VP of engineering at SigOpt. So at SigOpt, we make optimization software for customers who are doing machine learning or AI. They use our APIs to make their models perform better automatically. And we're always hiring co-ops, so if any of you are looking for a co-op position in the machine learning space, definitely come talk to me afterwards. So I thought I'd talk today a bit about some of the lessons and advice that I've learned over the years about one of the questions that I get asked a lot, which is, what should I do if I want to found a startup someday? So I'll share some of the lessons that I have that are particularly relevant for those of you in the audience who are current students who think this is something they may or may not want to do in the future. So the first piece of advice that I have, and this is perhaps the most kind of immediately relevant for those of you who are students, is that you should really take advantage of your time here at the university. I think you hear a lot about founders who drop out of school, some of the more famous ones perhaps, and because they're just in such a rush to get started. And I think that's pretty short-sighted. To this day, I'm wildly grateful for the fantastic education I got here with the great professors and great classes, giving you this great education that never really goes stale. They teach you the fundamentals and things that kind of last the rest of your career. But in addition to the great education, there's kind of some of the other more subtle benefits, like the great network of classmates you build while you're here. So, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of students who have gone on to work at other cool companies or found startups of their own or have a big social impact. And I'd encourage you to make these connections and hold on to them because they can be extremely valuable and they can really last the rest of your career. But if I had to pick one thing at Waterloo that was the most valuable for me, I'd have to say it was the co-op program. So it really was kind of night and day for me in my career. You just get this fantastic work experience. So when I graduated, I'd done 6 internships, like many of you will have done. And it's really it's hard to overstate how much of a benefit this gives you when you're competing with students from Stanford or MIT for these same jobs. Those students, the most ambitious among them, will have about 9 months of work experience. And by the time you graduate, most of you will have 24 months. And this goes a long way to helping you kind of hit the ground running in your first job, whatever that may be. Make a big impact, make a name for yourself. And yeah, that can be extremely important. It really opens a lot of doors for you in the first year or 2 of your career, which is a very high leverage time for you to make those connections and make that impact. But the other things about the co-op program that were really valuable to me were that I learned what I liked, but I also learned what I didn't like. So to speak to that a bit, one of my earlier co-ops was at Facebook. That was my first kind of exposure to Silicon Valley and startups, and I learned that I liked that a lot. But I really didn't like how big it was. So then my next co-op was at a much smaller company that was, I believe, 6 people at the time that I joined. And that was a great opportunity for me to learn that at a small company, you can have this really big impact and work on a lot of exciting things and get an opportunity to take big projects and have a lot of ownership over them. And I learned that that was something I wanted to do more of in the future. But then for my last co-op, I realized that this was going to be my last chance to work somewhere for just 4 months. And if I don't like it, I can leave, kind of no hard feelings, no burned bridges. So I wanted to use that opportunity to try something that I hadn't tried before. So I took a finance job in New York City. And that's where I learned that I really liked New York, but I really hated finance. So that was great for me to learn then because now I didn't have to wonder for the rest of my career, oh, maybe I should take a finance job, or maybe I would like it a lot. So yeah, use your co-op experience to explore, try new things, and find out what really resonates with you. And I think the last benefit that I'll talk about the co-op program is that it really instills in you a hunger to try new things and not be satisfied when you could be learning more and not be complacent. When you do a lot of co-ops, you're traveling across the country or perhaps across the world. You have a lot of new jobs. And that makes when you're going through these changes, it's not scary. It's just what you've done before. It's what you've always done. So then when you're looking for full-time jobs, that just opens a lot of doors for you. All the opportunities in the world are now available to you, even things you've never done before, even things that you might try for a while and decide you don't like it. And now you feel comfortable leaving and going on to do a new thing. Or perhaps you like it for a while, and then you say, this was fun for a few months, but now I'm not learning anymore. And not getting used to that in the co-op, I think that disadvantages a lot of people who they think, work is kind of static and I have to pay my dues. And so the co-op program, I think, does a really great job of getting Waterloo students excited about learning more. So just to sum that up, your time at university is pretty short. It certainly doesn't feel like it when you're a student. I know I didn't feel like that way when I was a student. But once you graduate, I certainly looked back on my time at the university pretty fondly. And so I'd encourage you to take advantage of it while you can, because after you graduate, you've got a long career ahead of you, and these are opportunities that you don't get back. So the next piece of advice that I have is that you should, as much as possible, be open to new opportunities. I think there's a lot of luck involved with finding success, both in your career and outside of your career. So there's bad luck, like an opportunity you were really excited about, someone else might get instead of you. And there's also good luck, like if you work on a really exciting team and work with great people and get a chance to build a lot of really valuable skills. And I don't think you can control your luck, but I do think you can control your ability to take advantage of the good luck that you receive. Not unlike doubling down on a good hand in poker or something. So I'll tell you how this manifested for me. So I was working at Foursquare. That was my previous full-time job before founding SigOpt. And by all accounts, it was a great job. I was learning a lot. I liked my coworkers. I was working on products I was excited about. But then I had this opportunity when I started speaking to Scott, who would eventually become my co-founder, about working on a project that would eventually become SigOpt. And it was an exciting project, and I really liked working on it. And we thought it had a lot of potential. So we applied to Y Combinator. For those of you who don't know, Y Combinator is a startup accelerator based in Silicon Valley. They funded a lot of companies you might have heard of, like Reddit or Twitch or Airbnb. And then we got in. So then I was faced with this decision of, do I stay where I am, stay comfortable, keep learning, keep doing what I'm doing, or do I set that aside and go try something new? And certainly it was a big decision. It was a scary decision. I was like, this is a lot of risk. What if it's not what I think it is? Why would I give up something that I'm enjoying currently? But when I thought about it from the perspective of when I'm 80 years old and looking back on my life, if I had the opportunity to start the company but didn't, that seems like something that I would probably regret for a long time. But it was hard for me to picture starting the company and regretting that. Even if it failed or even if we went out of business, it still would be an experience that I was going to be glad I did. So when I thought about it that way, I wouldn't say it made the decision easy, but it made the right decision obvious. So that's what I did. So moved to San Francisco, went through Y Combinator, which, like I said, it's an accelerator. It's a great program for taking people who are really good at what they do, whether that's coding or research or design, and helping them get access to resources about all the other skills you need to run a business, like sales and marketing and hiring and fundraising. And so now that's kind of what I do every day, all these things that I had never done before. So with my last job as an engineer, I did what I was good at every day. And now I work on what I'm bad at every day. And that can be frustrating sometimes, but it can also be really rewarding and a great learning experience and really makes my work feel valuable. So by being open to new things, it really opened up this whole new career path for me. Like if you wind all this back, it was this one decision, this one opportunity to stay with what I was doing or go through Y Combinator. And once again, there's a lot of luck involved in that. The program, not everyone gets in. Not everyone is fortunate enough to find something they want to work on like that. But by taking advantage of that opportunity, it put me in this position where I was able to, totally change my career. So I'd encourage you all to keep your eyes out for similar opportunities. And when you see ones that have a high impact, don't let them pass you by. And the last piece of advice that I want to chat about is make sure you work on something you're really passionate about if you want to found a startup. And this might sound like some of the kind of more obvious advice you've heard, like follow your dreams, or if you work on something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I wouldn't go that far. I think you can work on something you really love, and it can still be really hard, and it can still be a lot of hardship. But I think this is important because I meet a lot of people who say to me, oh, I want to start a company, but I just don't have an idea yet. And to me, that's backwards. I think if you're saying that, then I have to ask, well, why do you want to start a company? And these people often say things like, oh, I want to make a big impact, or I want to be my own boss. And these are great things to want, absolutely. But I don't think founding a startup is the right way to do them. Certainly, if you want to be your own boss, then you should definitely not found a startup, because you are immediately not your own boss. Your employees become your boss, or your investors become your boss. So, in my opinion, the only reason that you should start a startup that's worth it is if there's something that you're just so passionate about building that you have to build it, and you're you can't believe that it doesn't already exist in the world. And the reason this is so important is because founding a startup is a big sacrifice. You're going to give up a lot of your time. It's certainly a financial sacrifice as you give up kind of the other career opportunities you could be pursuing in that time. Because, as Mark mentioned, most startups fail. So if you're looking at it as a money-making opportunity, I would discourage that. And you're sacrificing a lot of social sacrifice. You're giving up on time with your friends and family and loved ones and other things that you might like to do with your time. And when you're making such a big sacrifice, there's going to come a day when you ask yourself, well, is this really all worth it? And if it's not something that you're so passionate about, that's probably the right question to ask, and the answer might be no. But if you are working on something that really matters to you, that is really what you want to build, and you're just so excited about waking up in the morning every day and working on it, then even when it's tough, even when it feels like things aren't going well, even when people tell you it'll never work or no one's ever going to buy it, you'll be able to persevere through that and keep going. And that can really mean the difference between success and failure, in my experience. So just to kind of go over these again, for those of you who are students right now, make sure you take advantage of your time at Waterloo. It's a great opportunity to meet classmates, learn what you like and what you don't like, and also get really valuable education skills. Be open to new opportunities when they arise. You don't get a lot of really great opportunities in your life, so make sure you take them. And that work on something that you're really passionate about, because I don't think you'll be able to do something that takes so much sacrifice otherwise. And I think if you look at all of these points, there's kind of the common theme here is that there's really no rush, right? Founding a startup it's a big commitment, it's a big opportunity. So I don't think it's something you should rush into before you found the one that works for you. Make sure you take the time to make sure you're working on the right things, because that can really mean the difference between success and failure. And you don't get a lot of shots in your life to work on something that makes a really big impact. So make sure you're working on the right thing. But if you are working on the right thing and the stars align, then you can get a great opportunity to develop a lot of skills you never thought you had, to work with a great team that you're super proud of, and build something that no one's ever built before. That's all the advice I have. Thanks for your time, and I have some time for questions if anyone has them.
Thank you. I was going to ask the first question. So one of the things I wanted to ask was there a person or a mentor specifically who kind of helped you along after university or that you met at university that's kind of been along the whole path with you right through to SigOpt, or that you go to for advice? Whether even if it's your parent.
Yeah. For me, certainly some of the managers I had in my first full-time jobs, built a great relationship with them, learned a lot from them, had a lot of respect for them and their work. And kind of to go back to what I was saying a bit earlier, having a big impact in your first few years of work really helps you make a name for yourself, helps you meet these people who you respect and have them respect you. And so then meeting those people and staying connected with them even after I had left my old job and started this new one, being able to go to them with hey, I'm working on this tricky engineering problem and I have a question for you, or hey, I'm trying to hire someone and I have no idea how to hire people. Can you help me with that? So I wouldn't say I had one mentor, right? But keeping a network of people who I respected and had worked with in the past who had a good relationship and felt like I could go to about those things.
Do you have any questions in the crowd? Yeah, please.
You said that one of your earlier co-ops was with Facebook. But I mean, seeming like I haven't had my first co-op term yet. It's next term. But I'm kind of getting the impression it's a decently competitive process. I was wondering what kind of skills did you have going in, because I feel like that's a competitive spot that you kind of landed there.
Sure. Yeah. So for your first co-op, it's kind of the reality that really the only thing you have to go off is your grades, probably. If you have some awesome project you've worked on, that does go a long way. So when I'm reviewing co-op applications, the things I look for are, what's your work experience like? That's kind of usually my number one. If you've worked at companies that I respect and had got good evaluations from them, that's probably my number one criteria. If you don't have that because you're young, that's kind of totally understandable. I care a lot about grades, and I care about, show me something very exciting that you have built that you built on your own initiative. So not a class project that someone told you to build, but something that you went above and beyond and made happen. That's personally what I look for, and I think that's pretty close to what a lot of the other tech companies are looking for. So that's what I'd encourage you to work on.
So currently I'm doing some personal business, and I have some stable income from that business. But I really wonder, so now I want to found a company to run the startup. So I just wonder, so how did you solve the law problem? Did you find lawyer, accountants, and
Yeah, so we worked with lawyers who helped us file all the paperwork. That was all done in California, so if you're looking to start a business in Canada, I don't actually know anything about that. But yeah, it's you know, if it's something you're going to invest a lot of time and your own effort into, make sure you do it right. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money to get a lawyer to just do it all for you. I think it cost us probably like $300 or $400. So if it's something you're trying to make money off of, that's a good expense to make sure you're not in the future saddled with these headaches of incorporating incorrectly or something like that. Another thing that's super important that I found, and I know a lot of people have made this mistake that I've known, is if you're founding a company with a business partner, right? It's super important that you have a good relationship with that person, particularly around the ownership of the business. Some companies like to say, oh, I'm going to own 70% of the business because it was my idea, and you're going to own 30% of the business. And that just causes a lot of strife and headache and bad blood later on. In my opinion, most of the value from the business you're going to build is going to come from the blood, sweat, and tears you put in after you incorporate. So if you intend for that team to be around for a while, I think splitting things evenly is just about the only right way to do it.
Yeah, so nowadays we see most of the entrepreneurs are having computer science or engineering background.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen, in your community, any other founders or with other backgrounds?
Yeah.
What kind of other skill set or attributes are there for them to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the engineering and computer science skills are valuable to the extent that part of your business is something that you are good at, right? But most of the other things that are part of making a successful business, kind of like all the skills I said I didn't have before, no one's going to have. There's no preparation you can get that'll teach you everything you need to start a company. The only way to do it is to do it and realize along the way that you don't know any of it. And so for that reason, I think it's important that you're good at something relevant, right? There's something that you have an expertise in that you've spent a lot of time on, and that should probably be a core part of your business. But a lot of the other skills are not so tangible, like your ability to stay determined and stay focused and not give up when things are hard, and to be comfortable working on things you haven't done before. And yeah, just all these kind of softer skills that you're not going to learn anywhere. And then the hard skills that you don't know, that's what you need to learn along the way. And that's where you get resources or mentorship or accelerator programs, or just talk to other people or hire them if you can. So I would say it's totally fine if you don't have a computer science or engineering background. But what is your background, if you don't mind me asking?
Statistics.
Yeah, statistics, right? Yeah, so if that's a part of what your business, you're like, hey, I'm really good at statistics, and for that reason I'm doing startup blank, then I think that's totally great. I know lots of people who are starting businesses who are designers, or I know one who is a aerospace engineer who's working on planes. And yeah, product managers and people with MBAs. So whatever your core competency is, aim towards that.
Patrick, I'm going to follow up another question here. Mm-hmm. You took a huge risk leaving Foursquare to start up SigOpt. I mean, stable income, life in New York. Mm-hmm. So you start SigOpt in San Francisco. It can't all, I'm going to assume it wasn't perfect and roses and everything. So during the tough times, what got you through it? What were you thinking? Or why did you decide, instead of closing it up, and what kept you going?
Yeah, so certainly there were a lot of tough times and a lot of things that didn't go well. And there were moments where we're like, maybe we should just kind of pack this up. So there's a couple of things. I think one is that me and my co-founder had a really strong relationship before we started the business, so that even when we disagreed on things, or even when things were not going well, that was super valuable to kind of keep ourselves grounded. It also helped once we had hired people, right? And then it's like, okay, now we've built this team, and these people are, they believe in us, or they've kind of put their faith in this company. So even if we don't feel it right now, we kind of have to make sure we're fighting for them. And I think a big problem that founders and actually just about a lot of people who are working on high intensity jobs, is they go through burnout, right? They work really hard, they work 16-hour days for 6 months, and that's just totally not sustainable. So, if sometimes you need to do it, if there is some looming deadline and it's for something that's really important, maybe you do need to put in that time. But if you're putting in that time every single day and every single month, that's a recipe for disaster. You're not going to be able to, people say if you're going to found a startup, it should be something you're willing to do for 10 years, because that's about how long it can take to reach some sort of exit. It is a big commitment. But you're not going to be able to keep up that pace of constantly draining yourself, burning yourself out every single night if you are going to be working on it for that long. So if you find yourself in these situations of like, this is not worth it, this is too much for me, why am I doing this? In addition to my kind of last point about making sure it's something that's really important to you, if you're finding that, then I think the next question to ask yourself is, well, am I burning out? Am I working way too hard and way too long? And is this something I need to scale back on for my own personal sanity? Eat well, exercise. These are all things that they kept telling me to do and I kept not doing. But they were totally right. It's really important.
Any other questions?
So what is it about what SigOpt produces or does that makes you so passionate about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so I think it benefits a lot of people, like our customers. They get a lot of value out of it. Like if you are a credit card processor using our software to increase fraud, increase their ability to detect fraud. Then that's super valuable to them, and they of course pass that on value on to us. So the thing that excites me the most about it is it's this unique technology that at the outset, me and my co-founder, but now the team that I've built, is uniquely poised to attack. It's a valuable problem, and there aren't much other teams out there who could do it. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited I've built a really incredible team of really talented people who attack these problems from a lot of great directions. And when I work with them every day, I get inspired, I learn new things. And that's what I would say to that.
John, you have a question?
Patrick, are there things, so I'm probably not going to start a startup. I'm a fossil. But are there things that you could give as advice, things that they could watch for? Because one of the comments that was made was a lot of startups fail.
Yeah.
Are there things that they can watch for that maybe they can navigate around that might help them be more successful with their passion?
Yeah, so I think that is kind of certainly the reality, right? Most startups fail. And I think, that's why if you're a venture capitalist investor, you invest in 100 startups and you hope that one succeeds. And I'm not going to say I think you can certainly do things to increase your likelihood of success, but I don't necessarily know what they are. I have my own hypotheses. I can talk about things I've done. But it is a reality that if you found a startup, the odds are not in your favor. So I think that's what makes the last point so much more important. That if this is something you try, that at the end of it you say, well, I got to work on something I really liked. I learned a lot. I feel that even though it failed, I'm still glad I did it, and I can still move forward with my career, or maybe try again on a different thing. I think that's really important. Because if you're going into it saying, oh, if I just work hard and stay up all night and hire the right people, then my company is sure to be a success, then I think you're setting yourself up for a disappointment.
You talked about how every founder has to wear a lot of hats. I was wondering if you could comment on one thing that you didn't expect that you would enjoy doing as much as you are, and one thing that you kind of can't wait to get somebody to do it for you eventually.
Yeah, the thing I'm most excited to have gotten rid of is sales calls. So I used to have to, so my co-founder does the sales side and I do the engineering side, but in the early days when it was just me and him, sometimes he would be doing a sales meeting and I'd have to do the other one. So I do recall sitting in front of these millionaire CEOs and trying to convince them to buy our stuff, and I was not good at it at all. But you learn, the important thing is not that you have to be good at everything, but that you do it enough to learn why it's hard, I think I was quite naive. I thought, oh, salespeople, they're just really charismatic and that makes them good salespeople. And that is not true at all. They put in a lot of hard work. It's a very deliberate skill that has a lot of expertise behind it that I just had no appreciation for. So learning what it takes to do something, learning why it's hard, and that way, when eventually you do hire someone to fill that role, you're not just looking at their credentials and saying, oh, this person, someone else said they're good, so I can hire them. You actually know enough to ask them, can you do this? And hopefully they're teaching you something even when you're interviewing them. And that's a good way to say, okay, yeah, I know now why doing sales calls is hard, and you've taught me something, so that's a good person you might want to hire. Something that I enjoyed more than I thought I would. I think it was fundraising. I thought that was something that was very, didn't seem to be something that I would be a core competency, but I'd never spoken to a billionaire before. But then I learned, I pictured it being this very kind of similar to the sales process where it's very intimidating and they're kind of grilling you. But actually I learned that in Silicon Valley, in some sense they're kind of on your side. They want to invest in startups. The good ones get what you're doing. They say, okay, I understand the technology. They understand that you know more about it than they do, but they understand the broad strokes. And if you find good ones, you're able to make good relationships with them. They give you money, of course, but also they give you an ongoing advisor relationship or resources. And I thought I really actually ended up enjoying kind of finding the ones who were going to work well with us and convincing them and getting them to buy into the vision. And yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Any surprises that still stand out in the sort of first 3 years?
There were definitely a lot of surprises. Yeah, what jumps to mind? I think I was surprised how what I would find a lot of value in. So I think when I was starting the company, just like from day one, what I was really excited about was I'm going to build this great product and people are going to buy it and they're going to like it. And now what I derive the most value from is, kind of to speak to what your first question, having built a team that I'm really proud of, having finding really good people, helping them succeed. We've reached the point where we've reached the point a long time ago, where the team is building things that I could never have conceived of or built myself. And so now my role has shifted to assisting those people, giving them the resources they need, making sure they're working at their capacity. I was used to being an engineer, of course, or a mathematician. In America, anyone can call themselves an engineer. They're not as strict as they are here in Canada. But I was used to kind of software development, and that had this very kind of short iteration cycle. Like I try something new, I put it in my compiler, it tells me I was right or wrong. But what I was not used to was the management and leadership, where you try something new, and then you find out 8 months later if that was the right thing or the wrong thing. And so once I did start doing those things, and I did start doing the wrong things a couple times, but I learned over time how to get better at that, and then finding that when those were successes, when I did have someone I worked with saying, Patrick, thank you, I remember you told me this 8 months ago, and I thought it was good advice, and I applied it today, and I learned this new thing, that ended up being super rewarding and super valuable in a way that I'd never imagined before. So now that's what I get the most value out of, is supporting the team, helping them grow, helping them join in the shared vision of building something we're all really excited about.
Any other questions? Before we, I'm sorry, copy.
I didn't get in the beginning if you are from here, from the region, from Canada.
Yes.
So why did you choose to go to San Francisco and to the United States? Do you have like your customers were there?
Sure. So yeah, I first moved to the United States right when I graduated. I moved to New York, and that was specifically because I did an internship in New York and really liked it. I think if you wind it all the way back, it started when I was doing my internships. I did internships in Canada and I did internships in the States. And at the time, this was probably 2008, 2009. it was the reality that the positions in the States were more lucrative, but also that's where kind of the big companies you had heard of were. I don't know what the dynamic is these days. So that's what I did, but then I learned I really liked San Francisco, and I learned I really liked New York. So I wanted to go back to those places. So then when I graduated, I was looking for jobs in New York, and that's where I ended up right away. And then specifically for starting this company, yeah, San Francisco is at least for now, certainly the place to be if you are doing a startup. There's a lot of, that's where the investment money is. That's where a lot of the accelerators and resources you're going to get are. If you want to build relationships with other startup founders, most of them are there. I certainly think you can found a startup anywhere, but that's a very opportune place to do it, and that's where we decided to go.
I got the first question, I get the last question. At breakfast this morning, the four of us met, and I asked each of them to supply their favorite memory of math while they were here. So, Patrick, your favorite memory was Bomber Wednesdays. Do we need an explanation?
I don't think so. That's, take advantage of your time at Waterloo.